2019. At this time, I will call the meeting to order. Before we introduce our members, I would like to recognize Dr. Ed Baum, who has officially retired from the board. And on behalf of everyone on this board, I would like to thank him, wherever he is, for his decades of service to the city of Athens and, of course, the university. I also would like to welcome a new member, Mr. Joe Krause, who I believe was in a different commission, and he's going to replace Mr. Ed Baum. And finally, I would like to welcome, on behalf of the board, our City of Athens new code director, Mr. David Riggs. Welcome all. The board consists of 5 members and 2 alternates. The alternates taking full part in the discussions and becoming a voting member in the absence of a member or when a member abstains from conflict of interest. Present tonight are Ms. Lisa Carson, Mr. John Goodekanst, Mr. Joe Krause, our new member, and Ms. Kate Housley. Our alternate member tonight is Mr. Aaron Thomas, who will be a voting member, and Mr. Joe Krause is going to recuse himself from voting due to conflict of interest. I am John Golsey, the acting chair, or the chair. Also present is our zoning administrator, Mr. David Riggs. And at this time, I invite you to view a pre-recorded video on the rules and procedures of the board.
The Athens Board of Zoning Appeals operates according to the following procedure. The chair will name and describe the case. The zoning administrator or secretary will state the basis of the objection and any applicable facts or conditions pertaining to the case. The appellant or their representative will give reason why the appeal should be viewed favorably. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the request will be heard. Anyone wishing to speak in general comment will be heard. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition will be heard. If necessary, the appellant or their representative will offer concluding, summary, or rebuttal remarks. Testimony from the floor shall be closed. The board will deliberate and render a decision. According to Athens City Code, Section 23.07.03b, the board has power to grant variances from the strict application of the code, provided the variance will not be contrary to the public interest, the spirit of the code is observed, public safety and welfare are secured, and substantial justice is done. According to Athens City Code, Section 23.07.10c, variances from the code shall not be granted unless the board makes specific findings of fact based directly on the particular evidence presented to it, that the standards and conditions imposed in this title, if applicable, have been met by the applicant. Exceptional circumstances. There are exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to the property in question or to the intended use of the property that do not apply generally to other properties or classes or uses in the same zone. Practical difficulty and undue hardship. Because of exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions pertaining to a specific piece of property, a literal enforcement of these regulations will result in practical difficulty or undue hardship that is unnecessary to the achievement of public purposes. Preservation of equal property rights. Literal interpretation of these regulations would deprive the appellant of rights commonly enjoyed by others in the same zone and the same vicinity, while a granting of the requested variance will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied to other properties in the same zone and the same vicinity. Minimum variance. The variance granted is the minimum variance required to make possible the reasonable use of the property. Absence of detriment. The authorizing of such variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property and will not materially impair the purpose of the zoning code or the public interest. Not of a general nature. The condition or situation of the specific piece of property or the intended use of said property for which variance is sought, one or the other or in combination, is not of so general or recurrent a nature as to make reasonably practicable the formulation of a general regulation for such condition or situation. Any person, resident, or officer, department, or appointed body of the City of Athens, aggrieved by a decision of the Board, may petition the Athens County Court of Common Pleas concerning the illegality of the decision. Such petition must be filed within 30 days after the mailing of the decision of the Board to the applicant. Thank you.
There is only one case on tonight's agenda, and that's the property at 16 Columbia Avenue. The Board is required to take testimony under oath. Would anyone wishing to speak concerning any item on the agenda please stand? Do you swear or affirm that any testimony you will present to the Board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Please be seated. This is case number 19-07V, the property at 16 Columbia Avenue. Zone is R1. And Alicia and Andres Castro are the appellants. Appellant is requesting a variance from ACC 2310, Table A, a schedule of bulk controls to allow construction of a fence with a front setback of 0 feet, where 25 feet is the minimum requirement. Generally, we go to the code office, and if there's any additional information that you would like to provide at this point, you can do that.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Title 230314 is the section that in part says no fence wall, regardless of height, shall extend beyond the front building setback. And then the bulk controls, section 231001, Table A, sets for a residential one zone, 25-foot front setback.
All right, thank you. You may come to the podium and state your name and your address for the record and your case.
All right. So my name is Andres Castro Jr. I reside at 16 Columbia Avenue here in Athens. Mm-hmm. My wife, Alicia, and I bought the house a couple years ago. Prior to obtaining the property, a friend of mine, Jamie Sullivan, owned the property, and there was, at that time, based on this ordinance granting a revocable license issued on October 6th of 1997, there was currently a fence in the front yard. Now, before we purchased the home, I went over to help our friend get it ready for the market, and in doing so, I removed the fence, also a dog door, on the back of the house. After that, we decided to purchase the home, and in doing so, it was no longer grandfathered in the sense that the fence was present. Mm-hmm. If you go to the auditor's website, the picture still has the fence around the front of the house, and essentially what we're hoping for, I know that the city has made great strides in putting some speed bumps and stuff on that road, but we have a 15-month-old son, and we would love it if he could play in the front yard and be safe in doing so. And we understand why these ordinances are in place. We understand the importance and the cleanliness of the town. I am the general manager of Jackios in Athens. My wife works for Integrated Services. We are very active in the community, and we have nothing but the community's best interests at heart. We don't think that this is going to be anything that would inhibit or deter anything related to our community. But yeah, I mean, that's essentially where we're at with that. Is we would love it if we could put up a nice, beautiful fence that our son could safely play in the front yard. We have his best interests at heart always. Like I said, this is not to take away from anybody else or to, shy away from the importance of having these rules in place. But we're here to try to make it a better living space for us, essentially.
Would the fence come right to the side of the walkway?
So I understood it would come as close to as allowable, so whether that's a couple feet setback, whatever was allowed, we would
Because your neighbor on 20 comes right to the walkway.
Right, but
and
his
then
has got-
there's another one in 12 or 14.
Correct.
That's a little bit sits back.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
So we have been in contact with all of our neighbors. Phil Smith owns a couple properties. He's a lawyer in town. And then Michael, who I do not remember his last name, lives, if you're looking at the front of our house, he lives south of us. The Reeves family owns the one north of us. And, you know, we have a very strong relationship with our neighbors. I wish I would have got some signatures for you guys or anything of this sort, but we have been in contact with everybody around us, and, you know, it seems like everybody understands, you know, the purpose of the fence and has no objections. Now, it's easy for me to tell you guys that right here, but if there's anything I could do in the future to prove that to you, I'd be happy to.
Well, the code office normally contacts the neighbors.
Yeah,
and
and,
if they had any objection, they would be here. So.
Correct, right, yeah. I had a buddy who lives down, so our property line hits North Congress, and a buddy of mine bought a house right at the bottom of the steps from Columbia that hit North Congress. He sent me a picture. He works for us at the brewery here in Athens. He sent me a picture asking what it was all about. And so I do know that those letters were sent out to everybody, and he was another person who also had no objections. While he's not directly next to us,
Yeah.
it seems like the people in the area might be all right with it.
Any questions from the board from appellant?
How big was the original fence there? Did you?
So I imagine it was, the posts were probably 5 foot, and it was a 4-foot fence.
And you only want a 2-foot fence?
No, 4.
No.
4, all right.
Yeah,
I saw-
yeah. Something that we
two,
can.
24.
Yeah, I was like, what? I was like,
Yeah, so we have
24
2
inch.
dogs. We have 2 dogs, and that's like another thing that is a concern for the safety is when we have 2 dogs running around and our 15-month-old son, who's recently walking/running, they're bumping into him all the time, and it would be nice as winter approaches if, for his safety outside of the street traffic, if we could let the dogs out and they're not jumping over the fence. It would not be anything obnoxious. I have plenty of friends who would help build the fence under any, you know, sort of zoning regulations or restrictions. We would be happy to be flexible, whatever the city needs from us in that sense. Very happy to accommodate. We're just hoping to get to that point.
Is it a chain link or going to be solid?
We would like to do a picket fence. Yes, so, you know, the board width would be approximately 4.5, 5 inches, 3/4 inch gap maybe, something like that.
So the same as your neighbors, right? Pretty
Correct,
much,
yeah.
And am I right in thinking that your backyard is very hilly?
Extremely hilly, yeah. Because we understand that we could build a fence in our backyard, but it's not really an option for us. I mean, as far as the usable space, flat space wise, you know, we've got maybe 10 yards before the hill hits real steep, and, you know, we also have to go down a set of 15 steps to hit our backyard. So, you know, that with the winter, it kind of negates the idea of a safe space for us to just let them have at it, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't go down the steps because nobody was home. I didn't want to just go in there, but
Oh, sure.
that's the only way to go down there?
Correct.
Okay, there is no access from the basement to it. But do you have a basement?
We do have a basement, but there's no access out of
okay.
the back.
Okay,
yeah.
okay. Okay, that makes sense.
I walked on the property today, and that backyard does not seem like even an option. It's a drastic drop, especially with a child.
That's true, right.
Any other questions? Well, you might be seated. If you have a
thank you.
question, we'll call you back. Should we consider that in the worst case scenario that the fence goes right to the walkway?
I think so.
So that way, if you want to go further back, you can, but so that would be the case. Okay, do we have a motion?
Sure, I move to grant a variance to the property at 16 Columbia Avenue from ACC 2310 Table A, Schedule of Bulk Controls, to allow construction of a fence with a front setback of 0 feet, where 25 feet is the minimum requirement.
I second.
Okay. Lisa, second. Normally, we go to the audience if there was any, and then ask them to talk opposed, in opposition, or in favor, and so on. But we don't have that part tonight. All right, let's go to the discussions, the findings. Exceptional circumstances. I think the outlay of the structure, especially with that steep in the back, that makes it a special. That is not going to be usable for the purpose that they want to have. Any other comments?
No.
Practical difficulty and undue hardship. What is the practical difficulty in this case?
Well, there's no good way to have a nice, safe yard for their toddler and dogs.
Okay, that's good. Preservation of equal property rights. As I mentioned, I guess property at either 10 or 12 and 20 and 48.
Summer location.
They have the very similar fence. And then is this minimum variance?
I feel it is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I feel so.
Absence of detriment. I don't think there's any objections from public, so we don't have him in here. And not of a general nature.
No.
No.
I just want to make a personal comment that just because you have a fence, or if you approve, it doesn't mean that the safety of the child is guaranteed. So you need to watch him over. Okay. It's a very busy street.
You gotta watch your kid.
Yeah.
I'll give you my word that will.
Okay. Yeah. We don't want a lawsuit later on coming. City of Athens approved this. Okay. Are we ready to vote?
Yes.
All members who can vote, please raise your hand for the variance.
4.
Anyone against? So you have your variance 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Okay, good luck. The other business is disposition of minutes from July 9. It was 2 months ago. I have read it. I haven't found anything to be changed. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Thank you.
I move that the minutes be approved from July 9th.
Do we have a second?
I second.
John Goodikins, second. All in favor of approving the minutes, raise your hands.
I wasn't here, so.
Oh, you weren't here? All opposed? Do we have 3 members? Yes? Okay. And any other questions, discussions? No? The meeting is adjourned.
Yay.
Thank you, Joan.